Alright, so I'm going to work on the stonework here and the columns. And I've chosen these four colors here, these five colors, that look to me to be stone kind of colors. Here they are here. And I'm going to go in there and fill it in a bit. Let's see. There we go. A little more light.
But although he believed in nothing,
Turn up the Tolstoy a little bit.
Blasé young man, nor self-opinionated, but on the contrary, continually let himself be carried away. He had come to the conclusion that there is no such thing as love. Yet his heart always overflowed in the presence of any young and attractive woman. He had long been aware that honors and position were nonsense, yet involuntarily he felt pleased when at a ball Prince Sergius came up and spoke to him affably. But he yielded to his impulses only insofar as they did not limit his freedom. As soon as he had yielded to any influence and became conscious of its leading on to labor and struggle, he instinctively hastened to free himself from the feeling or activity into which he was being drawn, and to regain his freedom. In this way, he experimented with society life, the civil service, farming, music, to which at one time he intended to devote his life, and even with the love of women, in which he did not believe. He meditated on the use to which he should devote that power of youth, which is granted to man only once in a lifetime. That force which gives a man the power of making himself, or even, as it seemed to him, of making the universe into anything he wishes. Should it be to art, to science, to love of woman, or to practical activity? It is true that some people are devoid of this impulse, and on entering life at once place their necks under the first yoke that offers itself, and honestly labor under it for the rest of their lives. But Olenin was too strongly conscious of the presence of that all-powerful god of youth, of that capacity to be entirely transformed into an aspiration or idea, the capacity to wish and to do, to throw oneself headlong into a bottomless abyss without knowing why or wherefore. He bore this consciousness within himself, was proud of it, and, without knowing it, was happy in that consciousness. Up to that time, he had loved only himself, and could not help loving himself, for he expected nothing but good of himself, and had not yet had time to be disillusioned. On leaving Moscow, he was in that happy state of mind in which a young man, conscious of past mistakes, suddenly says to himself, that was not the real thing. All that had gone before was accidental and unimportant. Till then, he had not really tried to live. But now, with his departure from Moscow, a new life was beginning. A life in which there would be no mistakes, no remorse, and certainly nothing but happiness. It is always the case on a long journey, that till the first 2 or 3 stages have been passed, imagination
Try to fill them in randomly, as nature does.
But with the first morning on the road, it leaps to the end of the journey, and there begins
Perhaps that's what makes art so tough.
So it happened to Olenin. After leaving the town,
Oh, we're trying to
he gazed
imitate
at the snowy
nature.
fields and felt glad to be alone in their midst. Wrapping himself in his fur coat, he lay at the bottom of the sled, became tranquil, and fell into a doze. The parting with his friends had touched him deeply, and memories of that last winter spent in Moscow, and images of the past, mingled with vague thoughts and regrets, rose unbidden in his imagination. He remembered the friend who had seen him off, and his relations with the girl they had talked about. The girl was rich. How could he love her, knowing that she loved me, thought he, and evil suspicions crossed his mind. There is much dishonesty in men when one comes to reflect. Then he was confronted by the question, but really, how is it I have never been in love? Everyone tells me that I never have. Can it be that I am a moral monstrosity? And he began to recall all his infatuations. He recalled his entry into society, and a friend's sister, with whom he spent several evenings at a table with a lamp on it, which lit up her slender fingers busy with needlework, and the lower part of her pretty, delicate face. He recalled their conversations, that dragged on like the game in which one passes on a stick, which one keeps alight as long as possible, and the general awkwardness and restraint, and his continual feeling of rebellion at all that conventionality. Some voice had always whispered, "That's not it. That's not it." And so it had proved. Then he remembered a ball, and the mazurka he danced with the beautiful Dee. How much in love I was that night, and how happy, and how hurt and vexed I was next morning when I woke and felt myself still free. Why does not love come and bind me hand and foot, thought he. No, there is no such thing as love. That neighbor who used to tell me, as she told Dubrovin and the marshal, that she loved the stars, was not it either. And now his farming and work in the country recurred to his mind. And in those recollections also, there was nothing to dwell on with pleasure. Will they talk longer? Came into his head. But who they were, he did not quite know. Next came a thought that made him wince and mutter incoherently. It was the recollection of Monsieur Capet, and the 678 roubles he still owed him. And he recalled the words in which he had begged him to wait another year, and the look of perplexity and resignation which had appeared on the tailor's face.
Well,
Oh, my
coming along a bit. I'll work on it some more.